It was raining so hard that night, it felt like the sky itself wanted to warn me. The water hit the windshield like tiny fists, and even with the wipers on full speed, I could barely see the road. I sat in the passenger seat, clutching my purse tight, trying not to cry. My husband, Ryan, didn't even look at me. His jaw was clenched, hands gripping the steering wheel like he was holding in a storm of his own. "Ryan, please," I said softly, my voice breaking. "Can we just go home? We can talk about this later." He let out a short, bitter laugh. "Talk about what, Haley?" "About how you embarrassed me tonight in front of my friends." "I didn't embarrass you," I protested, tears already spilling down my cheeks. "I was just trying to help." "You were drunk." He slammed his hand on the steering wheel, making me flinch. "Don't you ever say that again." "I was fine, Haley. You're always trying to fix things, always trying to make me look bad in front of people. You think you're some kind of saint?" His words cut deep, not because they were true but because I'd heard them before. Every fight ended this way. Somehow, everything was always my fault. We pulled up to the edge of the long private driveway leading to our house. But instead of turning in, he stopped. The rain was coming down even harder now, lightning flashing in the distance. "Get out," he said coldly. "What?" I blinked at him, confused. "You heard me. Get out, Ryan. It's pouring." He turned to me, his blue eyes icy and sharp. "Maybe standing out there for a while will teach you to keep your mouth shut next time." I froze. For a moment, I thought he was joking. He had to be. But then he reached across me, opened the passenger door, and the cold wind and rain rushed in. "Ryan, please. Don't do this," I whispered, clutching his arm. He pulled away. "You want to act like a victim? Fine, be one." And then he shoved. I stumbled out into the storm, my heels sinking into the wet gravel. The door slammed behind me, and before I could even process what was happening, the car's taillights were already disappearing down the road. For a second, I just stood there soaked, shaking, my hair plastered to my face. I could still hear his voice in my head, echoing like thunder. "Maybe standing out there for a while will teach you a lesson." I wrapped my arms around myself, looking at the long stretch of empty road. It was pitch dark, except for the faint glow of lightning flickering across the clouds. My phone was dead. My clothes were drenched. My heart was breaking. And then, just as I started to lose hope, I saw a pair of headlights coming from the opposite direction. I thought maybe it was Ryan coming back. Maybe he realized how cruel this was. Maybe he actually cared. But as the black SUV rolled to a stop beside me, and the tinted window slowly came down, I saw a familiar face. It wasn't Ryan. It was Ethan, my former security detail from when I used to work for a high-profile client. "I hadn't seen him in almost a year, Haley," he said, his voice deep, calm, and full of concern. "What the hell are you doing out here?" I blinked in disbelief, my lips trembling. He left me," I whispered. Ethan got out instantly, his coat already off, wrapping it around me before I could say another word. He didn't ask anything else. He just opened the car door and helped me in, his jaw set tight like he was fighting to stay calm. As I sat there, shivering under his jacket, watching the rain pour down the windshield, something inside me shifted. Ryan had wanted to teach me a lesson. He did. But not the one he expected. That night, standing in the storm with nothing left but the shattered pieces of my pride, I decided I would never, ever let anyone treat me like that again. Not Ryan, not anyone. And he had no idea that the man he thought was just my old bodyguard would soon be the reason his perfect little world fell apart. When I woke up the next morning, I wasn't in my house. I was lying on a soft gray couch, wrapped in a thick blanket that smelled faintly like cedar and clean laundry. My head was pounding, and for a split second, I couldn't remember what had happened. Then it hit me, the rain, Ryan's anger, the sound of his car speeding away. My stomach twisted. "You're awake," a familiar voice said. I turned my head slowly and saw Ethan standing in the kitchen, wearing a dark t-shirt and jeans. He looked the same as I remembered, calm, steady, with that quiet kind of strength that didn't need to announce itself. But his eyes, they looked worried. I sat up, trying to pull the blanket tighter around me. I'm sorry for showing up like that." I didn't even realize where I was. He walked over and handed me a mug of hot coffee. "You didn't show up, Haley. I found you in the middle of a damn storm, shaking like a leaf. You're lucky I was driving that road last night." I gave a small, nervous laugh. "Yeah, lucky me." He sat down across from me, elbows resting on his knees. "What happened?" I hesitated. "How do you explain that your husband, your partner, the man who promised to love you, left you on the side of the road because you embarrassed him? How do you make that sound like anything other than pathetic?" "It was just a fight," I said quietly. "He got angry and I guess I pushed too far." Ethan's jaw tightened. "So he dumped you in the middle of nowhere? At night, in the rain?" When he said it like that, it sounded even worse than it felt. I swallowed hard. It wasn't the first time he's done something like that, I admitted softly. Just never this bad, Ethan exhaled sharply, leaning back. Haley, that's not a fight. That's abuse. The word hung in the air like smoke. I know, I whispered. My eyes burned, and before I could stop myself, the tears started again. I hated crying in front of anyone, especially Ethan, but it just spilled out. I tried to make it work. I kept thinking if I just stayed calm, if I did everything right, he'd stop treating me like that. Ethan didn't interrupt. He just handed me a tissue and waited until I caught my breath. Where is he now? He asked. Probably at home, I said bitterly. Sleeping in our warm bed, pretending nothing happened. Ethan's voice dropped low. You're not going back there, are you? I didn't answer. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I was done. But part of me, the broken, exhausted part, still couldn't believe I had the strength to walk away. I don't know yet, I said. Everything's just a mess. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right. Then you stay here until you figure it out. No pressure. No judgment. I looked at him, startled. Ethan, I can't. Yes, you can, he interrupted firmly. You're safe here. That's all that matters right now. Something about the way he said it made my chest tighten. Safe? I hadn't felt that in a long time. I stayed there for 2 days. Ethan didn't push me to talk, didn't hover, didn't treat me like I was fragile. He just existed nearby, quietly supportive. He'd leave food by the couch, check in with a simple, you good? And then go back to his work. By the 3rd morning, I finally said, I have to go home. I need to get my stuff. My documents, clothes, everything. Ethan looked up from his laptop. You really think he'll let you walk in there alone? I met his eyes. He doesn't own me, Ethan. He smirked a little. Didn't say he did. I just don't trust him. Then come with me, I said before I could stop myself. He froze. Then nodded once. All right. Later that day, we pulled into the driveway of the house I once called home. My stomach twisted at the sight of it, the clean white walls, the perfectly trimmed hedges. Everything looking so peaceful. Like nothing had happened. Ryan's car was there. Ethan parked beside it, turned off the engine, and looked at me. You ready? No, I admitted. But I'm going anyway. We got out. I could already feel the tension building, the air heavy with dread. When I unlocked the front door, I heard his voice from the living room. Haley? He appeared a second later, wearing a smug grin, holding a glass of whiskey even though it was barely noon. Look who finally decided to come home. I stood there, trying to keep my voice steady. I came to get my things, he chuckled. Your things? Haley, you're not leaving. You made a scene, you embarrassed me again, and now you're running off like a spoiled brat? Ryan, I said calmly, move, but when his eyes shifted past me and landed on Ethan, the smile dropped. Who the hell is this? Ryan snapped. Ethan didn't flinch. Just making sure she gets what she came for. Ryan laughed, taking a slow sip of his drink. Of course. My wife needs a babysitter now? That's when Ethan stepped forward, not threatening. Not loud, but with this quiet authority that made Ryan's voice falter. If you touch her, Ethan said evenly, you'll find out exactly what kind of babysitter I am. The room went silent. Ryan's smirk returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Fine, take your crap and get out. But don't come crawling back when you realize what you're throwing away. I met his gaze. And for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel scared. I just said, trust me, I'm not the one losing anything here. As Ethan and I walked out with the last of my bags, I could feel Ryan's glare burning into my back. But deep down, something told me he wasn't done, and neither was I because Ryan didn't know it yet. But walking away was just the beginning of my revenge. The first night after leaving Ryan's house felt like stepping into someone else's life. I was sitting on Ethan's couch again, staring out at the quiet city lights through his apartment window. For the first time in years, there was no shouting, no tension, just silence. It should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. It felt empty. Ethan came over with 2 mugs of tea. Couldn't sleep? I gave a small smile. Guess I forgot how to. He sat beside me but didn't say anything. That was one thing about Ethan, he didn't force conversation. He just waited until I was ready. After a long pause, I finally said. He made me feel like I was nothing, Ethan, like I couldn't breathe without him. Every time I tried to do something for myself, take a course, apply for a job, he'd laugh. Said I wasn't smart enough or confident enough. And stupid me. I believed him. Ethan's jaw clenched. He sounds like a real winner. I let out a humorless laugh. He's got everyone fooled. Charming, funny, successful. People love him. They don't see what he's like when the doors close. Ethan turned toward me. Haley, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. He's the kind of guy who tears others down to feel taller. The second you walked away, you already won. I wanted to believe him. But my mind kept replaying every cruel word, every cold look Ryan had thrown my way. I want to rebuild my life, I said quietly. But I don't even know where to start. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then start small. What did you want before all this? Before Ryan? I looked down at my hands, thinking. I used to love event planning. I was good at it. Organizing, designing, making moments feel special. I even had a few big clients once. But when I married Ryan, he said it was a hobby, not a career. Ethan smirked. Then maybe it's time to turn that hobby into a business. I looked at him, half laughing. You make it sound easy. Nothing's easy, he said. But you've got grit, Haley. I saw it the night you walked away. You think many people could do that after years of being broken down? His words hit something deep in me. Maybe for the first time, I believed I could actually be more than what Ryan said I was. Over the next few days, Ethan helped me get settled. He found me a small apartment a few blocks away, cozy, affordable, with a view of the park. He even drove me to get furniture. I didn't realize until then how much I'd missed doing things for myself, making choices, decorating, laughing without fear of being too loud. But peace never lasts long when your past refuses to stay buried. It was a Friday morning when I got the first message, Ryan. I hope you're enjoying your little rebellion. Don't forget who paid for that wedding ring on your finger. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. I didn't reply. Then came another, Ryan, you think you can embarrass me and walk away? I'll make sure you regret it. My stomach turned. He'd never threatened me directly before, but something about the tone made me shiver. That evening, Ethan dropped by to bring over a few things I'd left in his car. When he saw my face, he knew something was wrong. What happened? He asked. I handed him my phone. He read the texts, his expression darkening with every word. He handed it back to me and said calmly, he's trying to scare you. Don't take the bait. But what if he shows up? I asked. Ethan's gaze softened. If he does, he'll regret that too. There was something in the way he said it, low, controlled, but deadly serious, that made me feel safe again. Later that night, as I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. My hair was still messy, my eyes tired, but there was something different now. A quiet fire, a strength that had been buried under years of humiliation. I whispered to myself, he wants to teach me a lesson? Fine, let's see who learns what. The next morning, I started planning my comeback. Step 1, I reached out to a few of my old contacts from the event industry. Most of them were surprised to hear from me, but one, Monica, a former client who'd always liked my work, said something that made my heart race. Haley. Funny timing, she said. I'm organizing a charity gala next month and need a coordinator. You were always great under pressure. Interested? I almost dropped my phone. Yes, God, yes, I'd love that. It wasn't just a job offer. It was a chance to prove to myself that I still had something to offer the world. When I told Ethan later, he smiled for the first time in days. See, told you. People like you don't stay down for long. I didn't know it then. But that gala would become the turning point, because when Ryan found out about it, and trust me, it wouldn't just bruise his ego. It would destroy it. He thought leaving me in the rain would teach me obedience. But what I was about to teach him was fear. 3 weeks later, I found myself standing inside one of Chicago's most beautiful hotel ballrooms, high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, white roses lining the tables, and soft jazz playing in the background. The gala was in 2 days, and I had personally overseen every single detail. It was the biggest event I'd ever organized on my own, and I wasn't just doing it for money. I was doing it to prove to myself and to Ryan that I didn't need anyone's approval to succeed. As I adjusted the lighting with the tech crew, Monica, my client, came up beside me. Haley, this place looks incredible. You've really outdone yourself. I smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. Thank you. It feels good to be back doing what I love. She gave me a knowing look. I heard you left your husband. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you seem lighter, happier. I froze for a moment, surprised she knew. Then I exhaled, a small smile playing on my lips. Yeah, I guess I finally remembered who I was. Later that afternoon, I stopped by a nearby cafe to grab coffee and go over the final guest list. As I sat by the window, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You really think you can just erase me? Haley. My stomach dropped. Then another message came through. Unknown number. Enjoy the gala. I'll see you there. My hand tightened around my cup, the coffee going cold. How did he know? How did Ryan even find out I was managing this event? I looked up, scanning the street outside through the glass. Cars passed by, people laughed on the sidewalk. But suddenly, I felt exposed, watched. That night, I called Ethan. He picked up on the second ring. You okay? No, I said quickly. He found me. I don't know how, but he sent me a message. He said he's coming to the gala. I heard him inhale sharply on the other end. Send me the texts. I'll take care of it. Ethan, please, don't make it worse. I'm not going to start a fight, Haley. I'm just making sure you're safe. I'll be there that night. I wanted to argue, but part of me was relieved. Because deep down, I knew Ryan was unpredictable and dangerous. The next night arrived fast. The gala was packed with people, CEOs, politicians, socialites. Cameras flashed, champagne glasses clinked, and the entire ballroom shimmered under the lights. I moved through the crowd, double-checking every detail, pretending like I wasn't scanning every corner for Ryan. At one point, Monica leaned in and said, "Relax, Haley. Everything's perfect." I smiled politely, but my heart was racing. Then, just as I turned to check on the catering table, I froze. He was there. Ryan, wearing a tailored black suit, hair slicked back, glass of champagne in hand. He looked every bit the charming businessman everyone adored, except I could see it in his eyes. The smugness, the cruelty. He raised his glass toward me with a smirk, like he was toasting to my fear. I felt my pulse hammer in my ears. I wanted to run, to scream, to disappear. But instead, I forced myself to breathe. Not tonight, I told myself. He doesn't get to win tonight. I turned on my heel and walked away, pretending I hadn't seen him. But of course, Ryan never could resist attention. "Haley," he called out across the room. A few heads turned. He was smiling, that fake, charming smile that made people think he was harmless. "Wow, look at you. Playing hostess now? How cute." My entire body went rigid. Before I could answer, Ethan appeared from the crowd, his hand resting lightly on my back. "Everything okay here?" Ryan's smirk faltered. "Ah, the bodyguard. You two still playing house?" Ethan didn't react, not a word, not a blink. He just looked at Ryan like a predator studying prey. "I'm just here to make sure she enjoys her night," Ethan said calmly. "Why don't you go do the same?" Ryan leaned closer to me, his voice low enough for only me to hear. "You think hiding behind him makes you safe? I made you, Haley. You'll always belong to me." Something inside me snapped. I stepped back, my voice shaking but loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "No, Ryan, you don't own anyone, not me. Not anymore." The guests nearby went silent. Ryan blinked, not expecting me to talk back, especially not in public. "Now, if you'll excuse me," I said coolly, turning to the crowd. "Some of us actually have work to do." A few people chuckled softly. Ryan's jaw tightened. He grabbed his drink, muttered something under his breath, and stalked toward the exit. Ethan leaned in. "You okay?" I nodded, though my hands were trembling. "I think so. For now," but deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Ryan wasn't the kind of man to let go quietly. And that night, as I stood under the glittering lights of my biggest professional triumph, I couldn't shake the feeling that the storm wasn't behind me. It was just beginning. The following morning, I woke up to a ringing phone and sunlight spilling across my apartment floor. My head throbbed from lack of sleep. The gala had been a success, but Ryan's sudden appearance had left me rattled. It was Monica calling. "Haley, you won't believe the press this morning. The event made front-page news. They're calling it the most elegant fundraiser of the season." I smiled faintly, forcing myself to sound enthusiastic. "That's wonderful, Monica. I'm glad it all went smoothly." She laughed softly. "You were brilliant last night. Everyone noticed. Even the mayor's wife wants to meet you for her next charity event." I hung up feeling proud for the first time in months. Despite everything I'd done it. But underneath that pride, unease still lingered. Ryan's words replayed in my head like poison. "You'll always belong to me." I made coffee, sat by the window and tried to calm myself. But then, a knock on my door. 3 sharp raps. I froze. Slowly, I walked over, heart pounding. "Who is it?" "It's Ethan." I let out a shaky breath and opened the door. He stood there, hands in his jacket pockets, eyes scanning the hallway like he was expecting trouble. "Morning," he said quietly. "You didn't answer my text. I wanted to make sure you were okay." I gestured for him to come in. "Sorry, I turned my phone off after the gala." He nodded, his jaw tight. "Good call. Because something happened after you left last night." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" He pulled out his phone and showed me a picture. Ryan standing outside the hotel, shouting at a security guard. The timestamp was from just an hour after I'd gone home. "He tried to get into the staff area," Ethan said grimly. "He claimed you'd left something with him. When they wouldn't let him through, he lost it, yelling, threatening people. We had to get him removed." "Oh my God," I whispered, covering my mouth. Ethan studied me carefully. "Haley, this isn't just some jealous ex. He's escalating. You need to file a restraining order." I can't," I stammered. "Ryan's family has money, connections. He'll just twist the story. He always does." Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then let me help you do this the right way, quietly, legally, safely." I looked up at him, at the steadiness in his eyes, the quiet strength. For the first time, I didn't feel small or afraid. I felt supported. I nodded. "Okay, let's do it." For the next few days, we gathered evidence, text messages, photos. Witnesses from the gala. Ethan knew exactly what to do, and I trusted him completely. He even arranged for one of his legal contacts, a woman named Claire, to help me file the paperwork. But while I was reclaiming my power, Ryan was unraveling. Late one night, as I walked home from my office, I felt that eerie sensation again, like eyes following me. I turned the corner and there he was, leaning against a street lamp. "Ryan," I breathed. Taking a step back, he grinned, but his eyes were bloodshot, his movements unsteady. "You look good, Haley. Bet you think you're better than me now, huh? Go home, Ryan. You're not supposed to be near me." He took a slow step forward. "I just wanted to talk. You didn't even give me a chance to apologize." "Apologize?" I snapped, fear giving way to anger. "You humiliated me, screamed at me, and left me on the side of the road in a storm. You don't get to show up and pretend this is some misunderstanding." His face twisted, the charming mask cracking. "You always make yourself the victim." I tried to move, but he reached out, grabbing my wrist. "Let go of me." Before I could shout again, headlights cut through the dark. A car screeched to a halt. Ethan's car. He jumped out before the engine even stopped. "Get your hands off her." Ryan turned, startled, but didn't release me. Ethan grabbed him by the collar, yanking him back. I said, "Let go." Ryan stumbled, shouting, "You don't know who you're messing with." "Oh, I know exactly who I'm dealing with," Ethan growled. "And this time, there are cameras." He pointed toward the dash cam still recording in his car. Ryan froze, realizing his mistake. Slowly, he backed away, fury burning in his eyes. "You think this is over? You think a few threats will stop me?" Ethan stepped between us. "No, but a judge will." Ryan glared at me one last time before storming off into the night. I stood there shaking, tears welling up, adrenaline crashing through my veins. Ethan turned to me gently. "You okay?" I nodded weakly. "Yeah, I think so," but inside, something shifted. For so long, Ryan's voice had been louder than mine. His anger, his control, his threats. But not anymore. For the first time, I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back. That night, as I sat in Ethan's car with his jacket draped over my shoulders, I realized something. Ryan had taught me to fear him, but now, he was the one running scared, and the next chapter of my life? It wouldn't be about pain or revenge. It would be about power. The restraining order was filed 2 days later. Claire handled it with precision, every message, every incident, every witness statement carefully documented. Ethan stood beside me in the courthouse, his presence a quiet shield of strength. Ryan didn't show up that day. But that didn't mean he was done. 3 weeks passed and I began to feel normal again. I was working more, sleeping better, even laughing again. I'd started seeing a therapist who specialized in recovery from emotional abuse. Slowly, I was learning that my worth didn't depend on someone's approval, especially not his. But peace, it seemed, wasn't something Ryan could stand to see me have. It started with anonymous calls. No one on the other end. Just silence. Then, a few emails from fake addresses with subject lines like "You'll regret this" and "You think you've won." Ethan had already installed security cameras around my apartment, so I tried to ignore it. But one night, everything changed. It was raining again. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was closing up at my event office, the same way I had countless times before. The city outside glowed with reflections from neon lights and wet pavement. As I stepped outside, I noticed a black car parked across the street. Its headlights flickered once. My pulse spiked. I grabbed my phone and texted Ethan, "That car is back. The one I told you about." He replied instantly, "Ethan, stay where you are. I'm on my way." But before I could even type another word, the car door opened and Ryan stepped out. He looked nothing like the man I'd married. His clothes were disheveled, his hair messy, his face hard and desperate. "Haley," he called, voice echoing through the rain. I didn't answer. I backed toward the building's entrance, trying to stay calm. "Don't you walk away from me," he shouted. "You ruined my life." I could feel people on the sidewalk staring, some recording. I took a deep breath and raised my voice, steady and clear. "Go home, Ryan. You're violating a restraining order. Leave me alone." But he didn't. He stormed forward and then, out of nowhere, a car pulled up between us. Ethan. He got out, slammed his door, and in one smooth motion, stepped in front of me. "You're done, Ryan. The police are already on their way." Ryan scoffed, his voice cracking. "You think you're her hero? You don't know her like I do. She's nothing without me." I stepped out from behind Ethan, shaking but resolute. "No, Ryan, I was nothing because of you." For a moment, everything went silent except the rain. Then flashing blue lights filled the street. 2 patrol cars pulled up, officers stepping out quickly. Ryan tried to talk his way out of it. The same charm he used on everyone, but it didn't work this time. The officers handcuffed him, reading him his rights as he shouted, "You'll regret this, Haley. You'll regret it." But I didn't. When the doors closed behind him and the car drove away, I stood there soaked, trembling but free. Ethan turned to me, his eyes soft. It's over, I shook my head, tears mixing with rain. No. It's finally beginning. The next morning, the story broke online. Someone had recorded the confrontation, Ryan's arrest, his breakdown, my calm defiance. It spread fast, not because people love drama, but because it was real. A woman standing up for herself, refusing to be silenced. Headlines read things like, "Woman confronts abusive ex. Teaches him a lesson in strength, courage in the rain." How Haley Turner took her power back. For once, I wasn't ashamed of being seen. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages, friends, old co-workers, even strangers writing to thank me for speaking up. Some said my story helped them finally leave their own toxic relationships. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, watching the city lights shimmer below. Ethan joined me, leaning against the railing. "You've come a long way," he said. I smiled faintly. "A few months ago, I thought my life was falling apart. But maybe it was just falling into place." He chuckled softly. "You sure you don't want to write a book about this? The girl who outsmarted her husband in the rain has a nice ring to it." I laughed, for real this time. Maybe someday. We fell quiet again, the kind of silence that feels safe. And as the rain began to fall lightly again, gentle, cleansing, I whispered to myself, "You taught me a lesson, Ryan, but it wasn't the one you meant to." I had learned that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just stands up, looks fear in the face, and says, "Not anymore." And with that, I walked back inside, leaving the storm, the pain, and the past behind me. Because that night, for the first time in a long time, I didn't just survive. I won.